Network, found exclusively at wrestlingwithjohners.com. Good evening and welcome to another live episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 245. And I've got a fantastic guest for a Jubilee Bank Holiday Friday evening, and none other than the Sacrifice Pro Ticking Timebomb champion, the Top Gun, Tommy Kyle. Great to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
I'm all right, buddy. Thank you for having me. How are you doing? You're good?
Very, very good. Very good. The weather's not so good here, but inside my little studio here, we are looking forward to this one for sure. And if anybody at home wants to send Top Gun, Tommy Kyle, any questions, any comments, ping them through to us on your chosen device, and we'll do our very best to answer them live on air. But Tommy, great to have you on the show. Kind of staying away from your career for the meantime. This weekend over in London, Camden, the Electric Ballroom, you got 3 days of Progress Wrestling, Super Strong Style 16. They've probably already completed night one. But you've got a bit of an interest in Super Strong Style this year, some of the matches, maybe one or two of the competitors. Any thoughts on who might end up in the final or who might do very well in the title tournament? Because, of course, Super Strong Style this year is for the championship. So any vested interest from yourself there?
It's a hard one because they've... I thought they were going to go with the competitors. I thought they were going to go a really predictable line of who they were going to choose. And then the last four, when they announced Dempsey and Johnny Progress and everyone, I was like, well, I didn't see who them going in. So Dempsey's a really cool one to go in. I don't know how much people have seen of his work on NXT UK, but insane. He did a show at UBW ages ago when he was sort of just doing the rounds, I guess, of British shows, and he's just a phenomenal wrestler. And just no one wrestles like him. He's obviously how Regal wrestles, but even then it's different. He's kind of molded his own thing, and it's really good to watch. But I guess there's a couple of the boys in there. There's Warren, there's Crowley, there's Gene as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy to see any of them win it. Would be very, very cool. But there's a lot of tough competition in there, so who knows, really? Hard to say.
Absolutely. Well, from day one, I've kind of been rooting for either Warren or Gene, and they are in opposite ends of the draw. So who knows? It could be those two in the final. But you've got some strong UK and some strong international talent there. But it'd be interesting to see how far Crowley gets. But then his first round opponent was Charlie Dempsey. So you never know. At the time of airing this, it could be all over for Crowley. But who knows?
Yeah.
He might have brought out one or two balloons, and it could have been could be lights out for the NXT UK star. But I want to talk to you about one of your most recent matches, and it probably would have been a couple of weeks ago now in Nottingham from the Portland Centre, Wrestle Carnival, the Hunt, and this was the match I was most looking forward to when I did my preview show with the guys from Tea and Tights. It was you versus Man Like DeReese. But something happened in the match before, a couple of matches before. The middle rope went. Will Cruz attempted a splash off the middle rope. But your match was affected, of course, because you couldn't use the middle rope, and it turned into an entirely different match for you two. Tell us about your experience, first of all, finding out about the rope and then finding out that you probably had to change your match.
Yeah, it was quite a lot of commotion backstage from it, I think, because we didn't know if the show was going to go ahead or not, when we didn't really know the severity of the damage. So yeah, I believe it was the fourth or fifth match it happened. I'm not sure. And they moved the interval.
Somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, they moved the interval after that to see obviously what they can do with the ring.
Yeah.
And at that point, DeReese, being DeReese, went to go out and sell merch because, it's DeReese.
He's got some cool stuff.
Yeah, of course. And then when he came back, we were a bit like, okay, so we can't do pretty much anything we planned, because they were saying that don't use the top rope either. They were just saying pretty much just avoid the ropes. So I think it was Joe Connors and I forgot his name, Riley Nova. went out
over.
before
Yep.
us, and they came back and they were like on the ropes. So we didn't go out there with anything that we had planned, and it was all done on the fly. So it was a challenge in that aspect, and I think we were both a bit disappointed we couldn't give the match that we wanted to. But like people were saying, I think the common consensus of the feedback I've had from that match is that it was different to anything that was on the card, because it was, I guess, a lot less, a lot more basic, a lot more stripped back, and a lot of people said that we went to the mat, and then it just was just us hitting each other for the last few minutes, really, and then Doris obviously sadly got the one up on me, but it happens.
I thought you two delivered, to be honest with you. I thought you two delivered.
I think I'm happy with the feedback people have given, because it was one of those matches I came out and I didn't, in my heart, think it was great. A lot of on my part as well. So when people said that it was good, and like, it wasn't the match that obviously we wanted to do, but people were saying it was still good. That's encouraging to know, which is nice. I've had a few messages from people saying that we've done really well. So yeah,
absolutely,
I hope to wrestle Doris somewhere down the line, and we can redo it with some ropes.
It's got to happen. But I thought that when you two kind of made it more of a mat-based game and started exchanging holds and counter holds and suplexes, I thought that was really, really good. And like you say, you called it on the fly. I thought under the circumstances, you two put together a pretty good match in that ring, considering, obviously a lot of people were expecting a high-octane, fast-paced, high-flying match between the two of you, two of the most exciting wrestlers in the UK, and it turned into a bit of a mat classic, so to speak. But like you say, you will have more opportunities against Doris. Was that your first time against a man like Doris?
Yeah, it was. And I was looking forward to wrestling him, because I think our styles are quite similar. We like to use the ropes to get an advantage, and when obviously that's taken away from you and we both have to change our game plan, we both sort of went in there with unfamiliarity of what we were going to do. But if it came out okay and if people enjoyed it, then that's all that matters, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now, the last time wasn't the last time I saw you, but the last time I saw you in action was at Sacrifice Pro, early April. Now, I think it was WrestleMania weekend, WrestleMania Sunday, and you were involved in the four-way main event for the Ticking Timebomb Championship. Now, you walked away with the title, did a backstage interview with you, but a hell of a match. I think it was yourself, Chase Alexander, Kai Payne, and Hustle, wasn't it? Hustle Malone, and you did walk away with the Ticking Time Bomb Championship. Tell us about that, because I don't think you were originally meant to be in the match, but you were, and you won the main event.
Yeah, it was a weird one. So the gimmick with that time bomb belt is that there's a 10-minute time limit to defend it. And either someone wins, if the champion wins, they obviously retain. If the challenger wins, they obviously win the belt. But if there's no winner declared after the 10-minute period, then the title's vacated. So then, say maybe those two will go in another match and someone will be added in. And I believe it got to a point where they were trying to find the inaugural champion, and this kept happening. They kept reaching the 10 minutes. And I got a message from management being like, we want to make you the fifth man. Because it was Chase Williams, Hustle Malone,
I think Warren Banks and Kai Payne.
Yeah, that was it. And they made me the fifth man. And the more men you obviously put in there, the harder it is to get to, wrap it up in 10 minutes.
Of course.
And beat everyone in 10 minutes. So I thought, okay, well, as the wild card, I've just got to come in there, just dismantle everyone and win as quick as I can. And yeah, it worked out. So.
Yeah, and I suppose the Ticking Time Bomb Championship, it kind of suits a wrestler of your kind of caliber, of your sort of ability in the ring, because you do have to win the match quickly. You need to be decisive. You need to get that match over within 10 minutes. And your move set and your style in the ring is kind of, get the job done, so to speak. But like I say, your next match for Sacrifice is defending the championship against somebody you know very well, CJ Carter, at the 5th anniversary show, June the 19th. I'll be there. But that is, just looking at the card, that's another standout match, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Me and CJ have wrestled. I've lost count. A lot of times.
A fair few times, yeah.
Yeah, a fair few. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think with that 10-minute stipulation out of where we've both got to, try and beat the other one within 10 minutes, and we know each other so well, I think we're going to have to pull some tricks out of the bag that the other one hasn't seen yet. So I think it'll be a fun match. I've got a lot of respect for CJ. Obviously, he's been a very frequent opponent and a very frequent travel partner, and he's a very good friend. But I'm not going to lose the belt off from one defense. So.
No, and just sticking with CJ for a bit, because
Yeah.
he's been on the scene for a while. He really has been tearing it up, and could potentially say, I'll say it, that he's probably one of the most underrated performers in the whole of the UK. But I think he's getting a little bit more of the recognition that he truly deserves, because he is one of the best talents in the UK, as far as I'm concerned. And you two being in the ring with that 10-minute stipulation in a couple of weeks' time, June the 19th, is going to be a hell of a match. But just sticking with Sacrifice Pro, you've had a long-standing relationship with Sacrifice Pro for a while now. Not I don't think from their day one, but certainly from early on in your career. And like I say, it is a charity group. They do some great stuff out of the Bedfordshire area for lots of local charities, but they always draw fantastic fans.
Yes.
Some of the best talent in the UK, and put on some of the best matches you're likely to see anywhere that week. Tell us about your relationship with Sacrifice Pro, because like I say, it has been long-standing, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been, I think Sacrifice Pro was maybe like the second or third promotion that booked me outside of my home one. And they took a bit of a chance on me, I think, because I happened to meet a bunch of their guys at a gymnasium, like a flip gym bits, and they happened to be wrestlers, and I was with a group of people who happened to be wrestlers, and we figured it out quite quickly. And then people started helping each other out with some bits, and the promoter got in contact with me and offered me a spot in just a 5-way, and I've been back there ever since, which has been very nice. And yeah, it's just a good cause. They do a lot for the sort of charities around the Bedford area and just charities as a whole. And yeah, the talent there's phenomenal. There's a good pool of talent. A lot of people will travel to work that promotion as well, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I've just always had a good time, and I really like the promotion itself.
And there's always a good vibe there as well. And like I
Yeah,
say, the last 3 times I've been there, really good vibe, good family vibe before they open the doors and backstage and after the show. And everybody's really welcoming. There's no egos. They know what they're there to do, and always put on a good show. Do you think the fact that it's a charity promotion kind of helps to, I don't know, get rid of any egos or any pressure before the match, and they just go out there and deliver for the audience and for the charities?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's as much because it's a charity show because of that. I just think there's no egos at the door anyway.
Yeah.
There's no need for it in that. I mean, there's no need for it anywhere. But like, especially there, because it's a family crowd, which it's not like if you do better at this family crowd show, you're going to get higher up on this family crowd show. Like you're going to be booked on it because they book more or less the same guys, like with a couple, maybe the odd one from London or Wales. But like you'll always kind of be on the show. You're doing it for charity, so there's no need for egos, and egos are checked at the door. I just think everyone likes wrestling there, and that's why I just think the matches are good, because people like to put them on there.
Yeah. And you say for the family audience, but their last show was a 18+ show, and that was a hell of a lot of fun. And if you haven't seen it, go and check it out. I don't know if it's available anywhere, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. And an 18 show done properly, without light tubes, without barbed wire, just a really, really good sense of humour, putting on some great action. And I think every show on that 18+ show, every match on that 18 show, was a crowd pleaser. But you were there sitting in the crowd. You saw it as a spectator.
Yeah, I was saying to people that it's the best. It's one of, if not the best, 18+ show I've ever been to, because it wasn't trying to be an 18+ show. And that's the problem I have with 18+ shows, is that they stick the label on it. And I feel like a lot of people just use it. Oh, I can swear and do whatever as much as I please, because I'm not going to have to be worried about upsetting family. And then a lot of the matches and a lot of the moments and stuff are just people swearing for the sake of it, or doing stupid stuff for the sake of it. Whereas, if the content is funny, but it's of a, think of it like a film rating. Some stuff in films or isn't going to be for like 10-year-olds, because if it's like, I don't know, if you show a 10-year-old American Pie, they may be like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
What's the connotation behind that? And it's exactly the same with this show. It's just very cleverly done. But I was speaking to someone there, and they were like, they wish they could have brought their kid to it, because like it's obviously subjective with what parents let their kids watch and how much they tell them about things of a certain age and things like that. But they were saying, oh, their kid would have loved it. Their kid would have absolutely loved that. They would have found it hilarious. So I think it's trying to find that balance on whether to peg it as 18 plus, and it's hard. I think it's more of a personal thing for me. I don't really like 18 plus shows. I just, you can be funny and do 18 plus shows and 18 plus show content without having to swear your mouth off. It's very easy to do.
Absolutely. But an 18 plus show done right, as far as I'm concerned, for sure. But slightly off topic now, and I'm just wondering if you've seen the latest Tom Cruise film out at the cinemas. What's it called? Top Gun Maverick. Have you by any chance seen that latest Tom Cruise release yet?
I actually haven't. I need to go and see it. I need to go and see it. But yes, I've heard it's really good, and I've heard that it's not just for nostalgia that it's good. I've heard like as an actual film, it's and with an actual new written plot, it's really good. Because I was expecting it to be. I was going to go and see it, and I'm still planning to go and see it. But I was expecting it to be just a lot of fan service for the people who like the original Top Gun. But everyone's saying that it's a really good standalone film. Like you can just go and watch it as a standalone, and it's still really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been 35 years, I think, since the original film, and obviously, I don't think Tom Cruise would come back and do a sequel of any of his previous films unless the script was up to standard. And Tom Cruise doesn't do many films nowadays unless the script is A1. So I'm sure, like you said, it's up to scratch. But you know where I'm going with this, because obviously your gimmick, your name is. Do you call yourself the Maverick, the Top Gun? What is your kind of your catchphrase, your gimmick name?
I mean, it can be both. It's the Top Gun and the Absolute Maverick, but it's more,
Maverick.
It's more of rather than being like I like Top Gun or whatever. It's more for what it stands for in that film, and like what Tom Cruise and how he acts in that film and how he's portrayed. As he is just like the elite. Whatever he does in that film, whatever he puts his mind to, he becomes the best at it. Like he suffers losses, he suffers like frustrations and setbacks and things like that. But he will always come out of it as be like, no, I'm the best. And it's the same kind of mindset I had going into this character when I decided I really wanted to try hard with wrestling. As I don't like to do things by half standards. Either it's I won't do it, or I'm gonna be really good at it.
Yeah, I'm going to show you some pictures here to kind of throw you in the Wayback Machine. Different stages of your career. So tell us about these stages. So that was kind of fairly early on in your career. No hat, no costume, no leather jacket.
Chest hair as well. Yeah, that's how you can tell.
Your chest hair has come a long way since. Is that the UBW British Heavyweight Championship there?
Yeah, that was my first belt and first title. And yeah, it was. I didn't really know what I was doing there apart from wrestling. I knew I could wrestle okay at that point, but I think I was only like just about maybe about a year and a half in.
Yeah.
When I got that, I think the promoter of UBW put it on me as a test to get me better opponents for me to learn from, which I appreciate. And if you ask me, would I be ready to, at that point? Probably not, but it was a really good learning experience at that point. But yeah, there was no character at that point. It was just what I thought was, I don't know, a wrestler maybe, this is a bit more.
So what about these guys then? So this is where the character starts to come in. You've got the pilot's uniform there, and there. I don't know if you're a pilot or a captain there. Maybe you've had a promotion. But early versions of Tommy Kyle by the looks of it.
So this was kind of like, I think. So I did a show, which was it was an over 18s show.
Yeah.
And it was at this, I can't remember if it was near Halloween or something like that. It might have been near Halloween. And I thought, oh, you know what? It's a newish promotion. I'm gonna just do. No one's gonna know who I am there. I know. I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna buy a £10 costume off Amazon or eBay, and just just be a dick, just like mess it out and see what happens. Like I was like, okay, cool. YMCA. Like, okay, what's like a real, I don't know, fireman, milkman, pilot. Sure, why not? And so you could tell this is like just by the hat and the glasses, you can sort of tell how cheap this.
Didn't want to get that near any naked flames by the looks of it. That would have.
Yeah, well, the shirt isn't even a shirt. The shirt is a bib. It's a bib with a neck strap. But yeah, like it was fun. And it was just, it allowed me to have my first taste of not being me, and I could be someone else. I'd be like, oh, okay, so this is the wrestling side of it where you could play a character. You are playing a character. And I enjoyed doing this, but then the tricky part of it, someone told me at the show, was that you do it as an entrance, and like you're lapping it up as an entrance, and you look like people are like laughing at you, which is great if you're being a heel and things like that. You're getting the reaction. Like I was never a face with this gimmick because you just couldn't do face with this gimmick. And yeah, like, but then when I came to the ring and the bell went, I just went back to being, the original, just being like just a wrestler with. I didn't really do anything that was that characterized. So I found it difficult. I was playing someone that wasn't me.
Yeah.
In a way, it was just like I was putting on some clothes to try and be different, to try and have a gimmick or a character.
Well, it definitely stands out.
Yeah, it did, and I think that was the reason, it was to stand out. But then after the standing out point, where people will start being like, "Well, why are you a pilot?" And be like, "Oh, I'm not. I'm just wearing pilot clothes." And and they'd be like, "Oh, so what does that have to do with wrestling?" I'm like, nothing really. And it started drawing blanks, and that's where the Top Gun idea started to become a bit more ingrained, because the Top Gun was more of an idea, and like more of a mindset, I guess, of like where I wanted to be. And I think it's that and the mindset that's come with it that's given me a little bit more of a push in 2021 going into 2022, I think.
Absolutely. And I think, like I say, this is the version of Tommy Kyle that we know and love today. A much cooler version of the Top Gun. But like I say, I think that the name and the gimmick lends itself now to your wrestling style, because you are very kind of fresh and slick, smooth and high flying and dynamic in the ring. But no, I think it's all coming together for sure. But before we continue, I must throw a sponsors plug to my fantastic sponsors, 1310 Apparel, who are not only the fantastic sponsors to this very podcast, Wrestling with Johners, but also to the Johners Podcasting Network. We now have over 50 channels on the Johners Podcasting Network of podcasts and YouTube shows and hosts from all over the world. One of the fastest growing podcasting networks you will find anywhere today. Go and check them out at wrestlingwithjohners.com or download the app from the Google Play Store. But if you head over to 1310's Wrestle Merch Central Store, you can see their fantastic range of apparel there. Everything from their hardcore range of t-shirts, hoodies, beanies, caps, their lucha range of apparel, and not forgetting the more traditional 1310 and Four Corners apparel, which is sported by such fantastic UK names such as Northwest Strong's Chris Ridgway, Rio, Heidi, Katrina, and so many more. And if you head over to Wrestle Merch Central Store at 1310.merch.global, you will find the exclusive Heidi Katrina 1310 design there, which is available now. And as a viewer or a listener to the Wrestling with Johners podcast, you can take advantage of our offer with 1310 over on Wrestle Merch Central on any of the fantastic apparel that you've just seen, and use the discount code 1310WMC at checkout for 10% off. Once again, use the discount code 1310WMC for 10% off at checkout at 1310 store at Wrestle Merch Central. So there we go. Thank you, 1310, for the fantastic t-shirts, and thank you for being a great sponsor. And back over to us. So Tommy, I'm curious to know, when did your love for pro wrestling first start? When did you first become a fan? When did you clap your eyes on it? When did it draw you in?
So I think probably, my answer is similar to most people's. When I was a lot younger, probably, oh my gosh, maybe 7 or 8 years old, I think. And I started watching SmackDown and Raw in like the 2000s and bits like that. But I only really saw very small clips of it because I didn't have Sky. So the only time I ever saw it was when I went to my friend's house who did have Sky. And then my parents didn't want me really watching it because they didn't want me to, the GTA principle. They didn't want me to like start attempting to do any of it in the playground at school or anything like that. So they stopped me watching it. And it's that thing when you get restricted from watching something, you want to watch it more because you're like, well, why can't I watch it? What's so wrong with it? And I kind of gave up after a while and left it. And then I think I started watching it again and picking it up maybe just after secondary school.
Really?
Yeah, not for a long time. So what was going on when I started watching?
So how long would that have been? Maybe 10 years?
Yeah, about 10 years.
So you'd have
So
had
yeah,
probably
it was
the rise of punk and things like that?
yeah, I think I just came back in the summer of punk. I think maybe a tiny bit before, but like
Yeah.
Summer of Punk was like the first, I guess, major, even though I didn't know it was a major thing at the time,
Yeah.
because I didn't know about like dirt sheets or anything like that when I was watching. But that was, I think, the major thing that I came onto. And it's why I'm still now watching. So like people will reference and be like, they say, "Oh, do you remember, the invasion of WCW stuff?" And I'm absolutely no idea of any of it, which I'm trying to relearn it or trying to learn it all.
Yeah.
But I'm really terrible with all that stuff because I've just got to learn and watch so much tapes and so much footage now. Thank God for the WWE Network is a thing.
100%. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, but it's but that's about time then. And then I finished college, went into work, and then I think, what was it, 2016, I wanted to maybe consider like trying it out, but I don't think I probably did it until like 2017. And then 2017, I started training in UBW, and then that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is actually quite cool. I can actually learn to do this. So yeah, I
So
guess
what was it that inspired you to want to kind of step through them doors on day one then? Or what was the kind of light bulb moment that thought, yeah, I really want to try this? Did you know somebody already in the business, or was it through watching wrestling as a fan?
Yeah, it was more watching wrestling as a fan. I always liked doing something like a physical activity. And I used to do sports. I used to do taekwondo when I was in A-level/college. And then I just kind of reached a point where I was just working and doing gigs and had no physical activity whatsoever. Like I was sort of, I wasn't unhealthy, but I was drinking and smoking and just going on nights out and stuff like that. And I was a bit like, this is fun, but there's probably going to be a time where this catches up with me. So I wanted to replace it with something physical. And I'd done like martial arts. I didn't really fancy football or like five-side teams. And I was like, wouldn't it be mad if like there was a wrestling school near me? They're all probably in London. I Googled one, and there's one in Hitchin, which is really close to me. I was like, wow, okay, well, I'll give it a try. And when I looked at it, the photos were just like a bunch of mats in like a boxing gym, and I was like, oh, this is going to be shit. This is going to be so bad. And I went there, and it was just a bunch of mats in boxing gym. But learning on those is probably like one of the best things to start, because you just learn how to like take the bumps are a little bit harder, but you kind of know what to expect. And then when you get in a ring, you're like, oh, this is what it's like. And like you learn a little bit more gritty, I would say. But yeah, then I went to training in rings and stuff like that, and it just went from there. I'm just going to switch the light on very quickly, mate.
You carry on. You carry on.
There you go. But yeah, that's where it was about.
So you mentioned Hitchin. Was that UBW or it was? Because
Yes.
I mean, I've had so many wrestlers on this podcast, from Memes to Crowley to Smashing Mike, now yourself, even Sunset Skip, who had a long career before kind of being one of the founding members of UBW back in 2012.
Yeah.
It does seem to be a great proving ground, a great kind of learning, a great group for training people from the grassroots, and it's made so many of the top talent in the UK in 2022. So, I mean, tell us a bit about UBW and why it's been so good for you.
I think it's just there was a point, I think, when I first started, it was the training was never bad because it had Ash Paul Ash, who was Ash from the FWA from the New Breed. He's been my trainer and still is my trainer. I always go to him for advice and things like that. And he trained all of us. But like I think his mindset of it was just a platform to get you to places. Like you would learn there, and then like he would be like, okay, cool. Well, once you got this, you'll go and try and find work and try and wrestle other places. So UBW had its shows, but they were like, I don't know, once every 4 months, 5 months, and in very isolated areas, and it was not disencouraging, but it was sort of like, oh, is this all it is this, when you first go there and you were like, you wrestle, it's like, oh, it's good and it's great, but then you're like, oh, well, what about all the people that I see on like Progress and stuff like that? Like how do they get there? Where do they train? And it just happened to be just at that time, it just, I don't know, it just had a dip. There was nothing necessarily they were doing wrong, it just had a dip. Because after that, it started to build a little bit, and they started to get like new venues, and the venues started to draw. And like you say, I think the talent they brought up at the same time. There was me, there's Truman Roswell, there's Crowley. At this point, Stevie Turner was just starting to like go to like Japan and things like that. But she was trained at UBW, and she was doing Japan and plus the indie. So she was, when she was doing like IPW and RevPro and things like that, she was being like, oh, okay, I've trained at UBW. So that started to get some buzz. And then they started to bring more people in to work us guys. And then they were like, okay, cool, these guys aren't half bad. And I think it just kind of built up from there. I think without blowing our own horn, I think we were the crop who started to kind of bring it back up to what it is now. Because it's a very well-oiled machine now. It's a very well-oiled family show that runs sort of the southeast of England, multiple places, that draws very well. So
absolutely, yeah.
I think us were responsible for it, I think.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I know that they've got their big anniversary show coming up in June also, featuring Tajiri versus Crowley. Not sure if you're going to be there. You might be there as a spectator or possibly as a talent. I'm not sure whether you've been announced yet. But I mean, UBW, they seem to cultivate the talent, not just performance-wise, but character-wise as well. They always give them a storyline. They always give them something to get their teeth into. They always give them, I mean, and that storyline and that opportunity for growth, I think, allows the performer to expand their skills in so many different areas very, very quickly because they're given an opportunity and they're given something to get their teeth into. And like for yourself, within months, they were kind of putting you in the title picture or the title storyline, which was obviously something to get your teeth into. But, they always give their talent fantastic opportunities, don't they?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have grown from, like you said, just going into storylines, and it's still, what I love about it is still has that original mindset of being just a platform to get started. So there's I coach at UBW's sort of coaching thing, which is Square One. I coach the beginners class, and that's sort of one of the biggest achievements I think of the last year, is now starting to see people that I've trained go on to like Square One and UBW shows and start to do things. And it's kind of been like, well, that's how we started. And now they're doing that and starting to like get around and starting to try new things and approach new promotions. And it's still got that original base of a platform, which is very, very, very cool. And that's what I hope it always has more than anything, is that platform to start people on that, because that's really cool. That's very cool.
Absolutely. I've been nothing but impressed with everything I've seen from UBW so far. And I'll actually be reporting backstage for their anniversary show on the 25th. So I can't wait to see the talent and see what happens there. And to see if Tajiri actually speaks English to me when I'm interviewing backstage this time, because that confused the hell out of me last time.
I saw that. And I was trying to work out whether he said something at the end, or he phlegmed at you or coughed at you, or what it was at the end. And I was like, what was that? That was a peculiar sound.
He ribbed me fantastically from beginning to end, and I'm sure he had a good chuckle on the way home as well. But I want to talk to you about your moveset now, because as I've said a few times during this podcast, you're one of the most exciting, innovative, dynamic wrestlers on the scene, and you're not traditionally what people might call a high flyer or a flippy guy, and I hate that term, by the way. But you kind of do have a good range of moves, a fantastic selection within your kind of move set. I mean, just some, for example. I've seen you've got a pretty sweet sharpshooter, for example. We've seen you against Darius do some mat work. You've got what's called a seatbelt suplex, the detonation kick, the Kyle cutter, and then we got this move that you haven't got a name for. They're kind of like 619 into a rolling German suplex. So you've got some pretty sweet moves, my friend, and a pretty sick lariat as well. So tell us about some of your moves and the origins of some of them, and how they come to be to what we see today.
I mean, a lot of them, like like the deck. Oh god, I haven't used the deck kick in ages. I should bring that back. I don't know. I think it's the mindset of being able to do as much as possible to cover as much ground as possible, because all shapes and sizes and abilities in wrestling. So I'm not always going to be able to if I'm doing some high flying stuff and I go against Robbie X, for instance, or Nino or someone like that, my stuff is going to look so much slower compared to how fast and crisp they are. And I will be the first to tell someone that. But if I can learn something else to be different from them on that particular match, so say if they're high flying, I'll try and be more powerful, or I'll try and be more groundwork. And then if someone is more powerful than me, then I'll be a bit more high flying. I think it's just trying to add as many strings to your bow as possible, and it's just from a bunch of stuff I studied over lockdown. I just watched a hell of a lot of different tapes over lockdown, and just wanted to try everything that I saw, like every single thing. I was like, yep, you made a massive list, try everything. And then there was some stuff that got scratched off. I tried it once and was like, absolutely not, that's not for me. And then there's some things that were okay and then evolved into stuff. So like that 619 German was never meant to be that it was just meant to be something else, and it turned out to be an accident, and it worked out nicely, and it's become that.
Does it work out? Yeah,
100%. And but yeah, it's just influences. Like I like the British style a hell of a lot, but I also like my biggest I'd say like my biggest idols or inspirations for at least wrestling is like Bryan Danielson. I'd say Jay White as well. The British ones are obviously going to be like Zack Sabre Jr., Regal, and people like that. But it's just having a diverse, toolkit, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And your versatility is coming on leaps and bounds. You can certainly see some of the influences, in your game, like Danielson and, like the Zack Sabre Jr. with some of your holds. But you mentioned lockdown, and when I had Smashing Mike on the podcast, and shout out to Smashing Mike, and I'll just quickly bring up his picture here. Otherwise, he won't be too pleased. But a really cool dude, one of my favorites guests in the 3.5 years I've been doing this thing. But he said that there'd be yourself and Mike and maybe a few other guys. I think I might have seen memes on one of the videos getting together via Zoom, watching footage from maybe, I don't know, some old WCW footage, or maybe some old Japanese footage, or some old WWE footage, and going through it and studying and learning, and like you said, making notes and trying things. And that was a real kind of good thing to do during lockdown, wasn't it? It was, instead of sitting idle watching EastEnders, eating Twiglets, you were kind of studying and putting in the graft, watching some old footage, and learning with the time that you had.
Yeah, I think everyone was doing that to a degree, but I really feel, and like I know it's so cliche, and a lot of people say it, and I don't think they're saying it for the sake of it. I do think people did work hard during lockdown, but I studied and watched wrestling more or less every single day, because when we came back to it, it was my mindset. Again, this is the whole sort of Top Gun mindset, and this is kind of where it comes from. I'm either going to be shit hot at it, or it's not going to be for me. And it was that decision. It was, when we come back, I'm going to like try and study everything and make it look, learn as much as I can without doing it, and then try and apply everything that I've done for when we come back. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, then, if I've put that much work into it and it still doesn't work, it's probably not for me. So that was kind of my mindset going through it. And yeah, you're right. It was just, when we couldn't see each other, it was just something to, rather than just sit on Zoom calls. You could obviously chat, but why not watch wrestling together like you would normally? Why don't you just put it on Zoom and make notes, and we did tape studies and things like that with other groups of people, and it was really helpful. Like it made made everyone come back, not just in that group, but anyone who studied stuff, be like, okay, when we come back, this is what I'm going to try. I saw this, I looked at this, and I think it's every single person that you watch now after lockdown, you watch their stuff now compared to the stuff they did before. I feel like everyone's got like 3 or 4 new things in their toolkit that they didn't do before, and that's all from, oh, that's good, I saw that in lockdown, and I thought that in lockdown. And so it was a good time for people to start mind mapping things they wanted to do and learn, I think.
Absolutely. And I wasn't suggesting for 1 minute that any British wrestler was sitting on their sofas eating Twiglets by any stretch of the imagination. That's probably something I would have been doing. But I know, I've spoken to so many guys and girls that were using that time to kind of be creative and to learn and to kind of think about how they wanted to be presented and represented coming back out of lockdown. And like I say, a lot of the talent, including yourself, made the most of that time in them very creative sessions. But what sort of content were you watching then? Were you watching WCW? Were you watching Bret Hart matches? Were you watching some Japanese stuff? What really kind of took your imagination during those months?
I started to watch some WCW stuff, more the fact, rather than study, just kind of like how mental WCW was at points, and just like some of the storylines and some of the matches that happened. Like I just never thought that it could. I'd heard stories, but I just never thought it could be that.
You had to see it to believe it.
Yeah, for real. It was one of that. I was just kind of watching it, like, this is the best, for all the wrong reasons. But like for studying purposes, it was like, some old Japan, some old World of Sport, current stuff as well. Like anything they were doing in the what was it called, the Thunderdome era. Like watching stuff back at those, because again, we didn't know if we were going to come back and do it in front of like 10 people, or if we, it was an uncertain time. And I think the main thing is, with Mike, we both have a love of Japanese wrestling, and one of the things that got me through, probably, I can't remember which lockdown, but one of them was, the things that got me through was the G1 climax in New Japan,
right?
Because I love that tournament, and the fact that it was going ahead in that lockdown was a real saving grace for me, because I was like, oh, it's something that's actually happening in the world, and like I can tune in each night and see something new rather than watching something that has happened. And so I studied a hell of a lot of people that were in that, and just that was the main watch. I think was a lot of Japanese stuff, which I'm not massively, I don't wrestle in a massively Japanese style, but I think it's probably one of my favorite styles to watch, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk to you now about coming back out of lockdown, some of your matches, some of your opponents, and some of the groups you've wrestled for, and starting with UKPW back in October, and having to go up against UK veteran Mike Bird. I saw that match back again today, and it was a really, really fun match. But Mike's he's a wily veteran. He's a technician. He can be a little bit vicious when he wants to as well. What was your experience of being in the ring with Mike Bird? And I've got nothing but respect for Mike Bird, and that was a great match and a fantastic opponent for you.
I probably owe a lot of sort of my kind of new mindset when I actually wrestled to the 2 matches I had with Mike Bird, because I had one at UKBW, and then I have one with him like 2 or 3 weeks later at UBW.
Right.
That just happened to have like that, and he is, oh man, he's so good, and yeah, he's just how effortless he is. I've tried and told people who are going to wrestle and be like, you'll be all right. You won't have to do much. Like, he'll have you, and he'll just do what he wants with you. But like, the piece of advice I tell people is just take what you want from him, because one of the things I guess I learned with him is, I suppose, if we're talking, wrestling sense and non-kayfabe and stuff, is in a way not to be as polite and just letting people take you and do what they want, like, take them back and stuff like that. And he was really good at showing me that. The first match we didn't really plan a lot. We planned like the finish, and again, that was one of my first real experiences of doing bits on the fly, like a whole match kind of on the fly.
Yeah.
And then the second one we planned a little bit more, but was a similar vibe. And
wow.
Yeah, I can't credit him enough. He's amazing. He's excellent. If you can wrestle Mike Bird, you'll learn loads.
You could tell just from watching that match that you were kind of soaking it all in, and he's such a unique opponent because of his experience, because of what he can do in that ring, and he can turn it on with the fans and show you something new, show you a new hold. No, I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I also want to talk about Jurassic Pro, because you've been there. I think you've had 4 shows. You've been there every single one of those 4 shows.
Yes.
You've had opponents such as Charles Crowley and Clementine in a tag match. You've wrestled Xander in like a no DQ. I can't remember how they phrased it. It was like a volcanoes rule match.
Yes, that was it.
That's right. That was quite interesting. And some of the matches I've actually got it here. So here we go. So you've wrestled Nino Bryant as well, and a triple threat match against Warren Banks and Dexter. So 4 excellent matches, but it's a new promotion on the scene, came about late last year. You've been there since day one, and you've been pretty much a permanent fixture, and you've had some good fun and some good matches there.
Yeah, I have. The Jurassic Pro promotion is a group of about 5 or 6 guys who are from that Ipswich area. They've wrestled. I won't say how long, because they may be all different times, or I might just completely get it wrong. But they've been wrestling a bit of time, and they wanted to start their own promotion. And I just really, really respect it, because they're really trying to do it the best they can and as the right way as possible. It's this little community hall in Harwich that they sell out every time, and they book a real diverse card of things. But now they've kind of got their guys, like you say, I think I'm one of them guys now, and they just switch up a couple of times with a couple of new people, so it's always fresh. But the locker room's good, the talent's always good, the matches are always good. But yeah, I just really respect that they're trying to put on the best promotion and show they can, and they're really just trying to do it well and right. And I know that sounds weird, because what promotion or what promoter isn't, right? But they just care a hell of a lot about it, and you can tell they really want to get it right. And they just look after their talent a lot. And yeah, I really recommend them and just rate them very highly. I have a lot of respect for all the boys that are running that.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of their matches are available on YouTube, and certainly the match I watched back was yourself versus Xander in the Volcano rules match. And once again, another kind of interesting stipulation where you couldn't go to the outside, but it was no DQ, so you could bring weapons in, but if the weapons fell out the ring, you couldn't use them again. So I think your character was trying to get rid of all the weapons and just have a straight match. Xander wasn't for it. I mean, you took some pretty stiff cane shots to the back and to the midsection, and some belt shots as well. But tell us about that match. I mean, that looks like a lot of fun with Xander.
Fun is a subjective term, but but yeah, I mean, I think it's one of Xander's wheelhouses, and it's not mine. So I don't know. I know I can inflict damage with holds and hitting someone really hard. So to be fair, if you give me a weapon like a chair, I probably wouldn't know how to swing it. So they're just obstacles. So I thought I'd get them out. And Xander's quite good with weapons, as I found out. So yeah, I've still got a couple of marks that are still visible from the belt shots that he's trying to give me. But yeah, I guess you could say it was fun. It was
from a viewer standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, that's all that matters, right? If people enjoyed me getting the heck whipped out of me with Xander's belt, then I guess I've done my job and he's done his job. But I still won, so that's all that matters, really, isn't it?
100%. And just going to bring up this next graphic, their next show, which is Spit Out the Bones. And there you are in a 4-way match against Hustle Malone, CJ Carter, and Xander. So 3 competitors you know very, very well. This is going to be a hell of a match. I think they're calling it the Fatal Claw Way. It's a little bit of a play on words there, but that will be probably your biggest test inside a Jurassic Pro ring so far, and a real crowd pleaser. But yeah, that should be pretty good, and potentially a number 1 contenders match. We're not entirely sure, but I would imagine that if you were to come out the victor in that one, you should be in contention for a future title opportunity.
I'd like to think so. I think I've been one of the strongest showings in Jurassic Pro since it started. I haven't always won due to, shenanigans. Actually, singles competition, I am undefeated, and it's just other people being a nuisance that have cost me triple threats and tag matches. So, Mike, I love you, but you absolutely cost me the victory in that tag match. And I would have beat Warren if it wasn't for Dexter being a pussy. So, you know,
There you go.
Dexter was crying out the outside and was making a lot of noise, and I would have beat Warren, and he distracted me. But singles, when there's no distractions, I win. And I would be easily the best candidate for the champion there. Another inaugural, right? Another inaugural. That's what I do.
100%. Yeah, it's going to happen, but can't wait to see how that plays out and what happens down the future. But Jurassic Pro, once again, a very, very exciting new promotion, and you're doing some great stuff there. So as we start to kind of wind down a little bit now, I want to kind of put you on the spot. And if I were to ask you who your kind of top 3 or favorite 3 opponents are or have been in your career so far, could you narrow it down as to who those top 3 might be and why?
Oh man, I don't really do favorites.
Sorry for putting you on the spot.
Oh yeah, no, it's too hard. It's like music, man. I don't really have a favorite song or artist. There's a lot of good stuff out there. Oh man, I can pick 3 that I've enjoyed a lot, and they may have to deal with. They may have to sort you. So one is against Smashing Mike at UBW. I think he said maybe about this, but it was the first time we faced each other, and it's just when 2 really good mates get to be like, cool, we've got an opportunity to really go out there and steal the show.
Yeah.
We were at a very confident point with both of our abilities, and that's what we wanted to do. And yeah, we knew how each other worked, and I think it showed in that match. And it was a good, fun match. It's one of the ones that I remember very fondly of being ones that we kind of both put it all out there. So that was very good. I would say, I would say my Wrestle Carnival debut. I wasn't in there long, but like it was sort of, I guess, a first sort of take. I was in there with like people who I've studied a hell of a lot in lockdown. So like,
was this the gauntlet match for the title?
Yeah. So like Dino, like Ridgeway, Warren, Crowley. So like there's a lot of moments going in there. Like Crowley, who I started with, who we both trained together at the start to be there. That was really cool. Warren, who I trained with a hell of a lot now, being in there was really cool. Being there with Dino, who I studied a hell of a lot, Ridgeway, who I studied a hell of a lot, and being able to wrestle and do bits with them. Jay Joshua, who's incredible,
great talent.
like such a phenomenal talent. Brady, who's excellent. Just Big Guns Joe, like just so many good people, and being able to like do that on that stage and be like, wow, and people going, well, that Tommy Kyle's not bad, is he? Like, and getting that at the end, that was a real. I would have liked to have done longer, and I would have liked to have won, you know. But
of course,
but that was really, really cool, and like I always will remember that as like a okay, cool, I can do this. I can do this. That was a cool moment.
A little bit of affirmation for yourself, you're saying?
I think so. Yeah, like it was one of those bits where I was just kind of shoved in the main event because there was injuries and other stuff that was happened. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm in with all these guys, and it just worked out really well. I felt like I hung, kind of thing, and that's what you want to do, right? You want to show that you can work at that top level.
Absolutely.
And then I guess a third one.
Would CJ be in that list, or
I always enjoy
potentially
working. Yeah, he would be, but which one? I enjoy all. This is it, man. I have matches that I enjoy, and I have matches that I don't enjoy. I don't necessarily have favorites because it's subjective. One I may have really liked, the crowd may have not liked, and one that I maybe hated, the crowd liked, and so it's hard to tell. From an enjoyment perspective, yes. Working and wrestling CJ is always fun, always a dream, always easy. I guess another one I'll put in there, which I really enjoyed just because it was so easy, and I thought we did some really cool stuff, and I just never worked the guy before, but I think it was really easy, was against Nino Bryant at Jurassic Pro. Just an incredible wrestler, just a very, very good wrestler. Probably, next maybe with Lando, like, when him and Joe are like the best high flyers easily, like in Europe. I know that's the gimmick, but like they are, bro. They are.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess
I'd say very inventive, very dynamic, and yeah, like I say, two young wrestlers that are going to be stealing the scene in a few years' time, along with yourself, of course. But I want to change the topic entirely now, and we spoke briefly about Top Gun and films earlier on, but I know that you're a huge Star Wars fan of the films, TV series, computer games. When did your love for Star Wars first start? Because I've got to lay it out there, and I've never said it on this podcast before. I'm a big Star Wars fan myself, and being a child of the 70s, I remember the early films. I think one of the first films I ever saw at the cinema was The Empire Strikes Back, and had all the toys, all the figures, all the set pieces, and then I just gave them all away. And why did I do that? It would have been worth thousands of pounds nowadays. But what about yourself?
So I think it's the film that. Do you ever have like films from a kid when you were a kid, and you remember sort of seeing them, but you didn't realize it was this film until like later on, and be like, oh, I had seen that film actually. It was just I remember a memory of me watching it, and I didn't know it was that film. I had that with Phantom Menace. I was on a holiday in Corfu, and they were playing it on like this outside theater, and I only remember it was just the pod race scene, and like. I'll fight people. Phantom Menace is not a bad film. Phantom Menace is a good film.
He's grown on me over the years, for sure.
The prequels were unfairly judged. But yeah, no, I saw that scene. I was like, this is amazing. However old I was at the time. And I was just like, that's really cool. And I didn't know what film it was because I saw that bit, and then I went and did something else as a 6-year-old kid does and forgot about it. And then later on I was like, oh, this is the film I saw in Corfu, and watched the rest of them. And just my dad and mum really like them as well, so they I grew up, I guess, with them. And then I then found out later on in life there's like so much lore and stuff behind it, and then they did like the animated series of like Clone Wars and Rebels, and Clone Wars is like so good. If you haven't watched it, go and watch Clone Wars. And then now we're getting all this, like, we're being spoiled with stuff like Obi-Wan. Like that's like. Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that? I think they're up to episode 3. I saw episode 3 yesterday. It's really, really good. Like I say, I think great having Ewan McGregor back reprising his role.
It's real cool because it's I think like it's generating a lot of buzz on online. Most people are like obviously very for it, but it's interesting to see a lot of people being like, why is this not mentioned in the other films, or are they retconning it? And like, if you think of 4, where they have in A New Hope, where Vader and Obi-Wan meet, they don't actually say any time periods. There's no bit where they'd be like, oh, I saw you 10 years ago or 19 years ago or whatever. Yeah. So it's just like the last time I saw you. So you do have this thing you can just do, as long as you stick to the rules and stick to what's already written, you can write really engaging story, which it is. If you haven't seen 3, go and watch it. I've screamed multiple times. But yeah, it's awesome. So good.
It really is. It really is. Like I say, go and check it out on Disney Plus or wherever you get your content, so to speak. But before we go, I want to ask you if you have anything you want to plug, any merch, any socials, any YouTube channels. The floor is yours, my friend. And to help, I do have a little running caption along the bottom. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think that looks right, actually. Yeah, I'm glad you got it, because I can never. All my socials are different because I'm an idiot when I say it. But, yeah, that's all it, man. Yeah, that's brilliant.
On Facebook, we got Tommy Kyle01. On Instagram, we got at TK Tkyle01, and Twitter Tommy Kyle95. I think that's right, isn't it?
Should be. Sounds about right. Don't forget my merch on Top Gun Tommy at shop at Big Cartel as well. Top Gun Tommy.
So would this be the most recent T-shirts there?
Yeah, they look a bit better than that now because the colour's actually in them. There is going to be some new merch dropping in a couple months or so. I'm still getting it designed, but there will be some new merch dropping in a couple months. But that's the current one, and you can get, stickers and all that stuff as well, and all that good stuff on the merch. Support me and all that. That'd be nice.
That's awesome. But Tommy Kyle, it's been awesome speaking to you for the last 58 minutes. It's absolutely flown by. We've covered a lot of ground there. But I want to thank you so much for being a fantastic guest, and look forward to seeing you at future Sacrifice and UBW shows, my friend.
Thank you for having me, mate. I've enjoyed this. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Take care.